The member for Narracan.
Thank you, Acting Speaker. I'm pleased to rise today on the Safe Food Victoria Bill 2026, and following on from previous contributions, I will reference the member for Albert Park just in her latest contribution. The South Melbourne market is a great place. Been there many a time. It might not shock anyone in this chamber that I think South Melbourne dim sims are probably the best thing in the joint. Look, my body's a temple. It's just built like a pyramid, unfortunately. So, on occasion, it can be. But look, I really want to go back to the member for Murray Plains and his contribution. And it's always, I actually really do enjoy listening to the member for Murray Plains. He's very experienced in this chamber, and he has great life experience as well. And he talked about our milk sector and when the automation of milking machines came in the 1920s. And as the member for Mildura actually referred to, he was actually there for that leap forward in technology in the milking industry. But there was another time in this chamber when the member for Murray Plains was speaking again on experience, and that was when the Paran Mechanics Institute bill came in 2024, and the Paran Mechanics Institute was from 1896, and the member for Murray Plains had good experience there too. So I always enjoy listening to the member for Murray Plains. No, he will live. He will be fine. But look, this bill is essentially it's about streamlining our prime safe and dairy food safety in the state. And this is what this bill's about. And again, the member for Murray Plains actually said some really good things in his contribution, and that would be that if we are going to streamline this process to make it easier for farmers and the process is easier, and this side of the chamber actually hopes that works, we really do, that in doing so, the costs come down. Because it's very, very important for our farmers at the moment that we ease the pressure on them, because at the moment they are under the pump. The farmers in this state actually feel like a punching bag for the state government at the moment. With everything that's been pushed on them, with the emergency services levy, I think that's coming in July 1 this year to farmers, with compulsory acquisition of land for renewable projects and transmission lines, not to mention all the natural disasters they have to go through, the fire, flood, drought, buying in water at $550, what was that? $550 a megalitre, which puts a huge burden on farmers. And I do feel for our farming community at the moment, and every member that's part of the farming community will tell the same story in this chamber. And it doesn't matter whether you come from Narracan, Morwell, Gippsland South, Gippsland East, Mildura, Murray Plains, Euroa, Lowan as well. Any of these areas in this state, the farmers are telling the same story. But we feel as though on this side of the chamber that the government's not listening to the farmers. So if this bill actually streamlines processes, makes things cheaper, then that's a good thing. But I do agree with the member for Murray Plains when he picked up that this should be reviewed, because we've had two bodies in this state, Prime Safe and Dairy Food Safety, that have done an incredible job. They actually have in the time that they've been in place. They've done a good job, and yeah, they may be outdated now, they may not. I mean, and this is why the review is important. This is where the review, if we had the review in place, we could gauge the effectiveness of this bill on our farming communities across the state. And I think it's very important. It's something the government should really consider. And when we look at, and I look at my area of Narracan, which takes in West Gippsland, and Gippsland as a whole, we produce about 20% of Australia's dairy. And my area is high in dairy, high in beef and high in produce. So my area is actually what this bill is about. And when I look at my area and what they're going through at the moment, and particularly with the BESS projects, the battery energy storage system projects that are taking up prime agricultural land with no consultation to the community, although the people providing these projects have to go through a community consultation process, which is literally a tick and flick. They turn up at a hall for 3 hours on a Sunday and go, I might, come and see us, but they turn up from 4 to 7. And what do dairy farmers do from 4 to 7? They're milking cows, so it doesn't give them the opportunity. But my community is actually very concerned about these BESS projects, especially if they catch on fire. Now, you will talk to these the people doing the development, so say, oh, we have an internal mechanism for the battery. If there's a fire, it puts it out. But they're not talking about the external effects. When you build a BESS project in a bushfire overlay area, my electorate is subject to pretty severe bushfires, especially in 2009 and 2020. The community is rightly concerned, are those batteries protected adequately? And the reason they're concerned, especially the ones in Shady Creek, because about 1.5 k's down the road, as the crow flies, we have Fonterra milk processing plant. So when we're talking about food safety, if these batteries catch alight, and if those fires are from the north, and predominantly in my area, when the wind's from the north, in those very hot conditions, that's where we are most at risk. If those batteries catch alight, that toxic smoke is going straight into Fonterra milk processing plant. Now, we are talking about food safety in this bill, and I have asked the Minister on numerous occasions, not to allow these BESS projects to go ahead in these areas. For that reason, the fact that they can remove an overlay and put a BESS project in there isn't great, in my opinion. And that's any overlay. It could be a bushfire overlay, it could be a cultural heritage overlay, it could be a flood overlay. The fact that they can remove them, but this particularly these two in Shady Creek, are really in the wrong location. And I was talking to a couple of my producers today, and I was talking to a producer out at Thorpedale at the moment with the war in Iran and the effect that's having on fuel prices at the moment. Now, at no point in time am I blaming the state government for the war in Iran, don't get me wrong, but we have to think of implications, and I think every government probably in this country has been negligent in never preparing for the worst when it comes to fuel. And who does it affect? First off, our primary producers. It's always our primary producers. Now, this producer in Thorpedale, which is, and I know the member for Murray Plains will know these people, Durkin's Transport. Durkin's Transport supply all the brush potatoes for Woolworths throughout the state. Now, they do an enormous amount of kilometres, you can imagine, across the state, and at the moment, their fuel bill has gone up $50,000 in a week. $50,000. Currently today, they only have 7 days supply. Now, obviously, with everything that goes on in the agricultural sector, even a big producer like Durkin's, $50,000 in a week in lost revenue is an enormous hit. An enormous hit. And now they've got to try and renegotiate to get that money back. And this is the problem. This is where I think governments have failed, is we really don't prepare for the worst when things happen. And as I said, I'm not blaming the state government at all for the war in Iran, but I think any government in this country should have a contingency plan so when we get to stages like this in the state, that there is a plan to go forward so our food can still hit the plate. Because if our farmers can't harvest, if they can't seed, if they can't milk, if they can't transport the milk, everyone in the state suffers. And I think that's incumbent on government going forward, that they actually do have a plan. As previous speakers have said, we do not oppose this bill. We do not oppose this bill. There will be amendments in the other place, and those amendments will come forward there. But in the meantime, the government should start looking after